Hey guys, welcome. Today we will be discussing the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act protects voting. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 outlawed practices like literacy tests and poll taxes that denied black voters the ballot. They were experiencing a lot of discrimination, a lot of systemic racism, and the 15th Amendment just couldn't stand alone, and they needed the Voting Rights Act to be passed to be able to support that. Federal enforcement reshaped voter registration in the South, expanding civic participation nationwide. For schools, it means campus voter registration drives, assistance with absentee ballots for students, and providing election materials in student languages without discrimination, which essentially were a lot of the issues as to why Blacks are such underrepresented and weren't able to have access to their 15th Amendment. The Voting Rights Act protection shows up in daily policies, registration access without biased timing or group limits, language access for voting information, neutral confidential assistance for absentee or early voting, and data safeguards to prevent sharing students' addresses or immigration status. From barriers to protections, literacy test and registration rules excluded racial minorities from voting. Even neutral sounding procedures could block eligible students from participation and trust in schools' processes. These barriers operated with little accountability and unequal impact. But when the Voting Rights Act got passed, the amendments forbid intentional discrimination. Policies with a discriminatory effect were being banned. A neutral policy can be challenged if its outcome harms the protected group, even without overt bias, which is why the Voting Rights Act was so impactful. In 1965, it was passed and it prohibited discrimination in voting. And just 10 years later, in 1975, language access protections added for voters who are limited English proficient. Guardrails that are still in practice from the Voting Rights Act. It remains a core shield for student voting access and language support, and educators should apply the 5-step evaluation to identify potential policy violations, map policies, verify registration and absentee processes, audit language services, protect student data, and review scheduling fairness. Recent court decisions have changed the enforcement. The Voting Rights Act is huge in our political system now, and it is important for us to be able to understand this act and its impact that it had in the past, for us to understand how our system works today and how we should be viewing the political system that we vote into. Thank you so much for tuning in.